Welcome, 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 everyone, to another amazing, fantabulous, stupendous Universal Citizens Media Galactic Historian webcast show. I am once again joined by the intrepid David Ellis. Welcome to the show, David.
Hello, Andrew. How are you today?
I am going good. We've got a special little from our heart to you conversation topic about esoteric people in general today. So I'd like everyone to sit back into your chairs, put your tray tables down, get your drink, and get ready, because we might have some truth bombs for you. In fact, we know there are going to be a handful of truth bombs that are going to go, as David and I said earlier, esoteric headshot, esoteric hard shot, and we might win a couple of you too who aren't fully paying attention all the time. So you esoteric people, sit down, get your drink, relax, as we delve deep into some topics today that are going to make you think, ponder, and wonder.
Okay, so we need to deal with some definitions before we start. What is esoteric as opposed to exoteric? Anybody in the chat want to hazard a definition, a guess? Nobody? No takers?
They're still trying to figure out what our headshot's gonna be.
Right. Does anybody know what the word occult means?
Secret.
What does the word occult mean?
It means secret.
Correct. From a Latin word, hidden. What does metaphysical mean?
Just beyond the physical representations of reality, in the meta.
Yes, meta is above and beyond the physical. Okay, the reason why we did the definitions is because we want to get an idea who's philosophically, oh, that's another word. What does the word philosophy mean?
So, if you are in the chat room, what does philosophy mean to you, and as an actual definition? Ponder your navel.
Okay, so we're going to break this down because we're going to just do a little bit of roots word analysis here. Osophy is the science of anything. Ology is the study of anything. Okay? Mm-hmm. So the phil part would be the thought part. Okay? The science of thought. Okay, now, the reason why we did this breakdown of the definitions of things is because I think people throw words around a lot of the time. Okay?
Yes.
And we need to...
Like word stew.
Like word stew. That is correct. And knowledge is a very important thing if you're going to be throwing words around. I've gone to yoga studios where the instructor does not know what the word yoga means. Anybody want to tell me what the word yoga means?
Tight pants.
No, it does not mean tight pants.
I gotta say something on here. You're on the ground all the time.
No. The word yoga is to yoke, union, marriage. That's what it means. Okay, so when you are putting a word in front of yoga, it means yoga with that thing. That's what the root of Sanskrit is. Okay, so I need y'all to be very, very careful with regard to throwing words around, because what we're doing right now is testing the knowledge of the esoteric people in the communities out there. Okay. So, Andrew, you want to start with a few myths about people who are esoteric?
Well, first thing, just because you meditate and maybe do yoga once or twice a year does not make you esoteric. You are a person who puts regular study and has enough enthusiasm behind the study so that you understand what the secret knowledge is and what the non-secret knowledge is and how to apply it daily. The first myth. Mm-hmm. If you do it 1 hour a year, you're not esoteric. You watch a handful of YouTube videos on megalithic sites and the Freemasons, you're not esoteric. you're a poser.
What is happening with the esoteric community is something along these lines. What I have seen over the past years, because before esoteric lifestyles were not very popular, a handful of people did that, and they were seen as the weird bunch. Okay. What we've seen in the last few years is that there's been a sort of influx of people who want to escape life to become esoteric. Esoteric is not some place that you escape to. It's a philosophy and a way of life. It is experiential and it is not intellectual. Okay? So you have one set of people who are extremely intellectual. They read 1,000 books. Okay? They can tell you the origins of this and the origins of that. You have Egyptologists, you have a whole bunch of people, but they do not practice. And as Andrew said, if you practice 1 hour a year, then you are not building the experience part of it. And this is a bit of a problem in the community right now. I don't know if for those of you who have been around for a while, because I've been around for a while. Andrew, you've been around forever, right? I've been around for a while. But what we have is a situation where people literally utilize esoteric knowledge as a sort of weapon, okay, to control others. And we really want to deconstruct some of this stuff. So, Andrew, where do we start? Where do we start?
Information is oftentimes weaponized by what Zero has called them poserteric people. They hold it in hierarchical strength over everyone because I have this piece. I may not practice or do it, but I have it. Information right away cannot be weaponized when it comes to you. You also have to have the capacity to understand that some things are written weaponized, and you have to be able to de-weaponize it, deconstruct it when you're reading it, and understand it, the nature of who wrote it, and when they wrote it, and why they wrote it.
I used to be in an esoteric organization, which is centuries old. Centuries old. And what they used to do is hold esoteric knowledge over the neophytes, the people who were lower in the organization, as a means of control. And I made sure to make them stop that stuff, okay? Because I was one of the people who tried to create this thing where it's 2000, we're in the year 2000, 2007, going past that year, and you're still acting like you're back in the 16th century. What's that about? It is because what we had was that people tried to hold esoteric knowledge as a means of power over others. Whereas the world has changed, information is supposed to be made available. I remember having these kinds of arguments with some of the people in that organization. And one of the arguments was something along the lines of, you don't cast pearls before swine, was what was like, you don't cast pearls before swine, was what was said to me. Now, I could understand that there are certain pieces of knowledge you wouldn't want to get in the hands of people who would misuse it. By that same token, like hypnosis wasn't taught to everyone before. You couldn't access that. Because you definitely don't want somebody becoming a skilled hypnotist and is a bad person. There is some truth to that. However, right, taking it upon yourself to determine who's good or is bad and who should receive the knowledge, and the only way you receive the knowledge is that they join you, is equally as bad. And that is my opinion. Tell me, Andrew.
Now, the next layer here of busting the myth of what esoteric is and isn't, as we talked about for practice, knowledge, then there are times that knowledge, which is ritual, practice, ceremony, etc., requires some form of hierarchical journey because some may know more than the others. And oftentimes the lower neophytes end up getting used as batteries.
That is correct.
And
Batteries.
that is something that absolutely is not modern esoteric. The old days, it was.
The Catholic Church has been doing that for years.
Right.
How do you conduct a mass, which is a ritual, in Latin when you know the majority of the population does not speak Latin or have any idea of it? How do you conduct a mass where you're utilizing the emotions, the willpower of a congregation of people?
Yep.
By the way, does anybody know what the word religion means? Anybody? We're making sure to educate everyone today. What does the word religion mean? Where does the word come from? What does it mean?
Irene, mind control.
No, Irene, it's not mind control.
Indoctrinate.
No.
I think we have a little aggressive, aggressive people here today.
Right, because the word religion comes from a root word which means to bind or to tie people together. Okay, so basically what it was, the Catholic Church has been doing that for years. So you have a bunch of people who are in a congregation. You are conducting a mass which is called transubstantiation, right? It completely in Latin. They know nothing, okay? How is that different than using people as batteries? The people give you the power to execute things. Well, Santo, it's not really hive mind control. It's more like harvesting energy for a particular end. So now they've been doing these rituals for years, whether it be the transubstantiation or the Eucharist or whatever you want to call that, okay? But conduct the mass in English, the language spoken by people, okay? Because as we all know in this chat room, and for you guys who are out there, when it is that you use people for their energy, it cannot end well for you in the end. Okay? It never does.
Nope.
So I've actually seen these things and these trends inside the esoteric community as of recently. Okay? I have seen this, and we have to say this. We have certain retreats and coaching retreats that bring people together and utilize energy, and people unwittingly take part in ceremonies, right, that they really shouldn't be, because it may be against their belief system. And this is something that has been going on for a while, okay? And we probably should examine that. That is the first myth we would like to bust, okay? Because what we're seeing in the esoteric community, we're seeing a little bit of a downturn where you're turning people into mindless people. And I have an issue with the concept of New Ageism. I do. Okay, what does New Age mean? You mean it's all age revamped? Is that what New Age is?
I kind of call it marketing.
You stop it. Right? Is that old age revamped? Because there's nothing new underneath the sun. Who said that? I can't remember. There is nothing new. There's
David
nothing
said
new.
it as part of
underneath
his
the sun.
marketing of New Age.
Right? New Age. There's nothing new under the sun. So you're going to repackage old concepts. You're going to present them as your concepts, which is plagiarism of the highest order. And then you're going to put it out there because you think you're doing a service to humanity. Okay? So you give people a sort of esoteric light version, right? A fast tracking. I want to say something to you guys. Okay? I don't know how many of you all began to meditate. I began meditating when I was 13. Okay? I don't know what age you guys started at. It really is not that important, but what I am trying to explain to you guys is that if it is that you are going to do something, do that thing fully. Don't look for some shortcut to do that thing. There is no shortcut here. Because as long as you're living in life, every day is going to be another lesson. Okay? And I think some areas of the community are plagued more than others. So you have people who, the yoga thing was one of the first things to go. Yeah? People became very embodied with the yoga, and they no longer teach philosophy of yoga. Okay? And then there was the blending of yoga with yoga ladies and all other kinds of yoga forms where the concentration was on the body. So forget about the actual philosophy or practice of it. Forget about Kriya, forget about all these things. We're just going to be stretching to make our butts tighter. So that's the first thing. Here's another myth for you, Andrew.
Okay.
All spiritual people are good people. Oh my God, I cannot discuss. Let's just discuss that one.
We have talked about this one a number of times. Just because you're spiritual does not make you a good person.
That is true. Spirituality has to do with working with a particular kind of energy pattern, right? A resonance.
Mm-hmm.
Being spiritual does not make you a good person. There are lots of spiritual people who are very, very evil people, okay? But they have the knowledge and they know how to use knowledge in different ways, okay? Like a psychologist, all psychologists are good people. They hold esoteric knowledge. Knowledge of the psyche isn't esoteric knowledge, okay? Mm-hmm. So if it is that I meet you in a party or bar or some social event, and I can look at you and tell what neurosis you have. You think you're fat, you think you're skinny, you think you're too short, you think you're too tall. And I come up to you and I know what your weaknesses are and you exploit them and I use them against you. I have power over you. Agreed?
Yes.
I'm not a metaphysician. I'm just a psychologist. It's the way that I see you, or the eyes that I've used to see you and perceive you. And that in and of itself is a kind of magic. It's a magic of the personality, mm-hmm. Which brings us to the next issue. All spiritual people are not good people. There's actually spirituality, and I'm going to say this, I can't believe I'm going to say this on international broadcast. There are actually spiritual people who are trying to actualize themselves as the worst people on earth. Okay? And what does good or bad mean anyway? Okay?
It's all in the eye of the beholder.
If I try to influence a country and get money from it, utilizing a group of people, does that make me a bad person? Does that make me a good person? Indifferent? Who knows? But there are, I do know that there are esoteric organizations that pride themselves on doing bad things. That is a statement of fact. But I won't want to get into that.
Not all Freemasons are bad either. Irene, not all Freemasons are bad. They have been given a shitty name by modern politics and people like Alex Jones. Just because they are in every form of government, again, does not making the baby eaters, the rapers, the dark magicians. Yes, that shit's out there. And yes, even Scientology has good things to it. For every aspect that you consider evil and bad, you cannot blanket labels one as X or X until you have a direct understanding and experience of it.
Mm-hmm. That is correct. As of a couple of days ago, I don't know how many of you have read The Lesser Key of Solomon. Anybody read that book?
It has been a long time since I've read that one, probably 15 years.
Right. That book used to be a staple in esoteric organizations. Okay. For those of you who don't know, it's a book on conjuring entities or whatever else. Why would you want to do that is the next question. Because you can.
For me, at that particular point, it was understanding all of the things that were around me. Knowledge, yes. Information, because at that particular point, I have a little bit different lifestyle than everyone else. And when you have large volumes of things that present themselves as external, you kind of want to have a reference, a handbook, you know?
Okay, so that was pretty intense. Let's go light. What? Very, very light. If you're an esoteric person and you're using your esoteric knowledge to make others feel bad around you,
and people, everyone else,
then you're probably not very spiritual, or you're not very good either. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Have you ever been in any social event and someone across the room is looking at you and bathing you in white light? Stop bathing people in white light without their permission. Okay, let's assume that you're a white lighter. We used to call them white lighters when I lived in California. Okay, so a white lighter does the following, right? They see you, they think that you're not having a good day, and they bathe you in white light. Why?
Because the New Age has told them that they can do it without consent. When rule 1, without consent, you are doing control magic.
Period. That is correct. But they don't do that. And a lot of people out there are guilty of this thing, right? Probably what you are transmitting, you're seeing as white light. Probably I'm seeing it as a dark, murky cloud. Mm-hmm. So don't go around and bathe people in white light.
I call it Charlie Brown pigpen energy, where you have all these love and lighters who are bathing light everywhere, but in fact they're like Charlie Brown, the pigpen care of the flies and the energy, that nasty energy around them.
That is correct. So there are these people. There are also the people that try to control you through esoteric manipulation. So let's say someone is having a discussion. They use it like Christians use the Bible. I'll explain. When you meet a bad Christian, you meet a bad Christian. As certain kinds of Christians that go from door to door, not that I'm mentioning any names, but you know. So they come to your door. You've come to my door on this beautiful Saturday morning. You want to tell me about the good word of the Lord. So I engage you because this is a discussion. I have a brain, you have a brain, let us discuss, okay? But they're not here to discuss, they're here to tell you, okay? So there's no discussion. And a lot of esoteric people and New Agers do that. They get into this thing. They say, you're being very negative right now. No, I'm actually disagreeing with you. Right? It's not that my energy is messed up or I'm being very negative or I have negative energy or dark energy. I'm actually disagreeing with you, and I have the right to disagree with you, which is why a lot of people do not take esoteric or spiritual people seriously anymore, because they do not have the skills to actually carry on. A lot of them do not have the skills to actually carry on a meaningful discussion. There's a difference between argument and discussion. Argument tends to, I wouldn't say denote, but it connotes a sort of adversarial stance. Discussion is more of a softer stance. You have your opinion, I have my opinion, and let's see if the opinions can gel and I could learn something new. But that doesn't happen often, okay? So you have a lot of New Agers, they try to shut down the argument by saying, oh, this dark energy, I can't take this dark energy around me, and run away. And how do you learn in that situation? You don't. Okay? So we want to actually address these things, because these things are like a disease, a scourge on the conversational platform.
Okay? Like the other day, we talked before about conversational terrorists. Unfortunately, you have a lot of love and lighter esoteric terrorists, and they don't even realize they're an esoteric terrorist running around and throwing their light shit everywhere.
Yes,
they're not helping, they're poisoning the reality.
It's amazing. Even when I was in school, I went to Catholic school, don't hold it against me. I had arguments with the brothers in the Catholic school, but at least they would bring argumentation back in my direction, whether it be a theological argument or whatever else it was. What it is that you are an esoteric or a spiritually minded person, you should be able to stand within your own ground and have a discussion, because the part of being esoteric and spiritual is that you learn every day from the most unusual places. You could have an argument with a homeless person outside of Starbucks and learn something. But if you close yourself off and you think, oh, I am like so spiritual with myself, there's absolutely nothing I can learn from people, then you are ignorant and you will remain ignorant. And then you turn around and you talk about people who are not agreeing with you. Okay? That is not something that we would necessarily promote, because you won't learn, you won't grow, you will stay ignorant. Okay? And what about the esoteric people who attack other esoteric people? I'm so spiritual, but this actually happened to me recently on a visit to Boulder. Let's discuss that, Andrew.
Ooh.
This actually happened to be on a visit to Boulder. I actually was sitting in front of a Swami. This is hilarious. Okay, so I will tell you how this happened. So I was invited to this lunch with this Swami. He calls himself a Swami. Okay. He came in with the robes. He came in with the ashes and, the mala, etc. Okay, we are yogis together. He sat down and he had a problem with the host of this lunch that I went to. Okay. He had a problem with the host. He was angry, but wait, he is a Swami, so he doesn't get angry. He just becomes rude instead. Okay? Which is a manifestation of his anger. So he was very, very rude to the host, very rude to myself as well, right? Because he felt that he was superior. Okay? He felt that he was superior. I had to energetically remind him, because yogis do speak to each other in different ways. I had to energetically remind him that the clothes do not make the man, and neither do the clothes make the spirit either. Okay? It doesn't matter how many robes you wear, how many malas you have on, how many esoteric symbols you have on. If you're an asshole, you are an asshole. You know that, right?
Yep.
And people will pick that up really quickly. But what happens to this particular Swami is that because he wears the robes and so on, there are certain people that will give him a pass as being eccentric. If you're being rude to people, you're an ass. Okay? And I certainly hope the host is watching this broadcast, because she usually does. Because people need to understand that when you see people come over from exotic countries and they try to teach you, every one of us is equal under the laws of the universe. Some of us may be farther ahead in some ways, whether materially, spiritually, or otherwise, but believe you me, we're all equal. We are all equal, right? This is not Animal Farm. All of us are equal, but some of us are more equal than others. No, this is not Animal Farm. So we want to, the end of the story was that he looked at me, I looked at him. We silently communicated to each other that we had absolutely no time for each other, and that this discussion was ended. And myself and the host redirected the conversation to his wife, who he married to get into the United States of America, because he couldn't get in any other way. Like, seriously, yogis using people, right? The Swami, my God. Anyway, the end of the story is that these kinds of things crop up every day. And it's been a long time coming where we had to actually talk about these things, okay? All right? before you become a spiritual person or an esoteric person, please, 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 just be a decent person, first of all. Let's start with that. Let's just start with that, okay?
But
and
David,
then you can add anything else on it.
To be a decent person means you have to have a common moral code that doesn't move. And unfortunately, too many people who don't really have real teachers, their moral code can move. And here's a classic example. You have somebody that's a very spiritual person, and maybe they own a bunch of properties, and they don't like somebody on the property, and all of a sudden their moral code goes, I can do energetically whatever I want. That is a violation once again. And we see this worldwide. Sometimes you don't need to be an esoteric practitioner. And when those things go on and you allow your moral code to slide and you start using your energy without consent, you are doing what? Allowing the shadow to run you into darkness.
And it's very subtle, I think. I think it's very subtle.
If your moral code moves based on the subject, you don't really have a moral code.
I actually have something.
You and Bushido. Yeah.
Yes. So this is why Bushido was actually created in the first place, actually.
Right.
Right. To give people a definitive place where you can actually refer to something and go back and see what it is. So I actually got to the point where I was saying this moral code where you're sliding back and forth. If your esoteric practice, this is another thing that I want to say. If you are an esoterically minded person and you are hurting people, you are being rude to people, you are being short with people, you are making people feel uncomfortable when they come within your presence, okay? You are not controlling your energy, right? You're having tantrums, you're having all of these things, then it's probably not working for you. It really isn't, okay? Because your esoteric practice should theoretically make you stronger, smarter, better, right? And cleaner. It should theoretically do all those things. If it is not doing those things for you and you're still treating people like crap, then you might want to take up table tennis or golf or something like collecting coins, make a book club or something like that. So, Andrew, that was a you might want to do that, right? There is another thing that I also want to say, and it is to esoteric people who are under attack from people. Now, there's a lady named, there's nothing wrong with table tennis. Okay, there's nothing wrong with table tennis. There's nothing wrong with it at all.
Unless it's dark table tennis, where you're using obsidian balls.
Yes, with spikes on them. But anyway, so Dark Obsidian, our last guest. I want to say something about the esoteric people who are under attack from their family members, other esoteric people, and so on. In my hands, I have the words from Sir Henry Coenrath, which I'm going to read to you. Okay? So he was a metaphysician, and he was usually under attack by other philosophers, other esoteric people, and so on. So he wrote this.
When did he write this? What year was this?
I'm looking for it right now. That was in 1602. He wrote it in 1602, and I'm going to read it to the audience so that y'all... So, this is what Henry Coenrath had to say to what he called calumniators, slanderers. I know this for certain, that if I fight with dung, win or lose, it dirties me. Great is the danger to which ignorance can bring higher things. Let him burst, whoever bursts with envy. That was point A. Point B. In important matters, it is difficult to please many. To please all, most difficult. If you do not understand something, that does not prevent the rest from understanding. Let him who can seize and savor. If he cannot, let him remain as he is, whether he is silent or learns or goes away. C. O happy hidden sciences and happy arts, if only good workmen valued you. Skill has no enemy except the ignorant. D. It is incorrect to judge from one part of any book unless you have thoroughly perused and duly understood it all. And I hope you guys are listening. E. Nothing is easier than for the lazy and sleepy to argue about the labors and observations of others. With no work to their credit, they envy the works of others. F, to make fun of it is easy, to imitate it difficult. Whoever cannot understand it can criticize it. The best things displease the stupid. G, there are some born of an angry nature who put the worst interpretation on everything and slander everything good. But indeed, it is worse to be a slanderer. H, do not think yourself successful unless the masses laugh at you. If you wish to be a happy man, consider first how to scorn as others, evil or ignorant, scorn you. This is from Seneca. I, truth is expressed and not oppressed. That is something, but what will slander not lie about? And what is safe from his malice? Okay, that's J. He who praises me in my presence and chides me in my absence is the stuff of pestilence. Okay, the clamor of fools must be listened to with equanimity, and the honest opinions of the hasty scorned with the same scorn. The best is food for fools. Ignorance and envy are the parents of slander, but envy and slander yield to the truth. And the last one, God does not please everyone, whether it rains or shines, nor I, Henry Coonrath, who shall escape the crafty lies of the jealous. Okay, so those of you who are under attack, please understand that if you fight with dung, win or lose, it dirties you. So if you're being trolled, if your parents or your siblings are calling you freak or goofball or whatever the hell it is that people call people, please understand, right? Henry Coonrath, correct. Please understand that this phenomenon is coming from a place of usually of envy. If they cannot understand you, then they cannot understand you, and you have to accept it. Do not adapt to people. Be your authentic self, and then they will respect you. If you bend the knee, then you will not only be a coward, you will also be a prisoner. That is our message to you. Back at you, Andrew.
Being a prisoner is choice in this modern world with modern esoterica. And unfortunately, all too often people find themselves imprisoned by content, especially in this modern world of YouTube where you can get a PhD on 5 videos on a subject and you become what I call these enlightenment traps. And oftentimes you want everyone else in your enlightenment trap, and you know you're in a trap or you don't, and you end up getting stuck at such an arrogant level because you think you can learn everything via YouTube without practice. And one of the very unique aspects of this modern world is information is everywhere. And unfortunately, curiosity learning is not real learning anymore. And when you learn the difference between what real learning is, enthusiastic effort and study and practice, versus click, watch, without ever taking a note. It's one of the most dangerous things that I see in session after session. People go, I'm a researcher. Bullshit, you're a video watcher that never takes any notes and keeps it all in your head.
A lot of people think that note taking is a physical thing. Take note also means embody what it is that you've learned.
That's right.
You know, let me tell you who the successful esoteric people tend to be. They have some sort of grounding before. You mentioned Bushido before. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Bushido before. People who learn Bushido when they were young tend to be disciplined in their practice, and they tend to stand the test of time. When you step onto the esoteric path, it is not a fad. You do not do it for a couple of weeks and then jump off. Okay? And then 10 years after say, oh, I was part of this movement. No. If you are In it, you are in it, or you are not. Okay? There are a lot of people who can't decide what side of the fence they want to be on. There are people who stepped onto this path, and the first person who called them weirdo, they jumped off of it. That is cowardice.
And
Because they
unfortunately,
couldn't take it.
we live in a world of cowards who have no spine, the spiritual invertebrates. And you got to learn to have a spiritual spiritual spine to stand up to yourself, your inner demons that we create ourselves. And then you have to stand up to the world of assholes out there who are trying to do what? Have computational competition over you all the time. They're always figuring out what angle they can get you to be under their little hierarchical system.
Yes, because everybody, here's the other thing that I've found. Now, I've been doing yoga for many, many, many years. I have taught literally thousands of people hatha yoga. Okay? I do not willingly take on the title of guru. Everybody seems to be looking for someone to follow. Okay? No, you look for someone to teach and guide you to become your own guru, your own priest, your own archbishop, and your own pope. Stop willingly putting yourselves under the command of others and accepting yourselves as inferior. I'm speaking to everybody in this audience. Stop. There are esoteric movements and yoga paths where people leave all parts of the world to follow their guru, even though the guru says, stop following me around. Please, stop it. Okay? You learn things from people. You absorb the knowledge. You become the guru. Hopefully, it may take you a day. It may take you, 50 years? But at least you should be aiming to ascend inside your mind and ascend inside your own spirit. But there are also cultural aspects to this, because there are particular cultures that say you must have a guru for the rest of your life. So I'm sorry, you never graduate school, right? You never actually graduate from school. You graduate from your academic college. Why can't you graduate from yoga school? There are a lot of teachers, yoga teachers that I have taught who have become very, very successful in their businesses and so on. And I applaud them for that, because they didn't stay, right, as students chasing people, okay? And for those of you who are teachers and coaches and whatever else, every client that walks through your studio and every client that walks into your office, do not think of these people as inferior to you. The only inferiority is that they don't have the knowledge you have yet. And for those of you who only teach people part of a curriculum and don't teach them the full thing, and you know inside yourself that you are actually skimming the knowledge off the top, please stop that nonsense, okay? Because the best thing for a teacher is that teacher's student becomes better than him or her, as the case may be. Okay, so that is actually something that I have seen in the community. This thing where people follow people willingly as sheep has led to a lot of problems. Not that I'm mentioning any names, but a particular religion that you mentioned a little earlier on, where people just join the religion, they give their money, and it's like complete slaves. Okay? Complete slaves. Do you really want to be a slave? Let me tell you something. If you are seeking the path of enlightenment, the path of enlightenment encoded inside that concept, samadhi, is the concept of freedom. You are free. If you're not seeking freedom, then you're just looking for another prison to put yourself in.
And sometimes people find themselves in 8 or 9 prisons, and they have no idea that they've fractured themselves and fractalize themselves into many different prisons of belief.
Yep, that is a case. Wouldn't it be? You remember that song, Imagine, John Lennon?
Yep.
That everybody forgot because I really like. I think that must be one of my all-time favorite songs because he's asking people to imagine a world where there is no boundaries, no difference, right? No religions. It actually says that in the song. Okay? Imagine a world where none of all that nonsense exists. Okay? Where everybody is the same. Imagine that world. I wish we could bring that song up. That's a wonderful song. Anyway, right? That's a wonderful song.
YouTube would bend us over and hit us with the baseball bat if you did it.
Yeah, I know. Right. But you guys, when we finish this, go look at Google YouTube search John Lennon's Imagine, because it has a lot of very buried esoteric truths in it. Okay. The concept of difference is what is really causing all the problems in the world. You see, me and you are different, so one of us must be right and one of us must be wrong.
Why can't both of us just be right?
Oh, nobody thinks that way anymore. So, and if you're different, then I'm sorry, you have to die because you're different. And that's how it usually starts, right? 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 Yeah. So people don't utilize sophistry anymore. Okay? So they don't have these kinds of discussions. And I believe that's happening in the esoteric community. I believe that there are esoteric elitists in the community, and you know this. Okay?
So right. Leslie put something, there is no right or wrong. Technically, via perspective and belief, there is a right and a wrong. But when you go to the eagle eye point of view, everyone is right, but it's your perspective that creates wrong. And it is your moral code that judges right and wrong, that determines if light is being created or light is being harvested via right or wrong.
That is very interesting. So, how do you determine morality, right or wrong? Let's go through some philosophers off the top of my head, shall we?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people in your chat room are putting out a lot of esoteric philosophy. Let's go. Let's pick a philosopher. Immanuel Kant. Okay. Immanuel Kant said, for an action to be a moral action, objectively, he's trying to get objective.
Yes.
It had to fulfill 3 criteria. Okay. This was the criteria it had to fulfill. It had to be reversible. Meaning, if you did it to someone else, you must accept that it was done to you. And if you think it's wrong for yourself, then it means it's wrong for other people. Okay? So it's a wrong action. The second criteria, it had to be universally applied, meaning that if it's right in Denver, it's right in Pluto, it's right on Pluto, it's right in another galaxy. It had to be universally applied. The third criteria it had to pass was it had to be done in the spirit of freedom. Okay, not under duress, not under any kind of duress, whether mental, physical, or anything like that. It had to be done in the spirit of freedom. That is what the criteria of Immanuel Kant for a right or wrong action was. The only reason why I'm saying that is that people generally tend to just go on a sliding scale. Oh, it kind of seems right and it kind of seems wrong, and they never actually submit what they're doing to any kind of philosophical test. They just think, oh, well, it was right because. No, if it is reversible, if it's not reversible, it's not universally applied, and it's not done in the spirit of freedom, or you're hampering someone else's freedom for that matter, then according to Immanuel Kant, that is a wrong action. John Stuart Mills, remember him? Mm-hmm. He said, the only right action is the action that causes the greatest good. So what is the greatest good? What does he mean by that? It means it benefits. We're going to throw that out completely. All right. We're, we're going to we're going to throw it out because what he actually was supposed to be saying is that, well, it benefited the most people and was of positive end to the most people. Okay, so how do you navigate right and wrong? Because here's the thing, there's a Latin say that goes essentia in contra sua. I've said it on the show before. It means the essence of a thing is in its opposite. For every wrong thing that is done, something good came out of it. You just can't see it yet. Mm-hmm. Okay? A man beats up his wife and she leaves him. Okay? The fact that she leaves him would be a good thing. He might actually learn a lesson. Okay? For every good thing that is done, something wrong came out of it. The essence of a thing is in its opposite. As an example, the concept of charity, you know, charity. Mm-hmm. Look, so in the country where I am right now, the Hindu community created something called seva. Okay, they practice something called seva. And so what they do is they, on certain days, they cook a lot of food and they bring to the people who can't get food, okay? Who can't get food. It's a service. That's what it means. It's a service to people. And it's supposed to be done in open-heartedness. And it's a good thing. Charity, that's a good thing, right? Theoretically, like, how could that possibly go wrong? Okay, let me tell you how it goes wrong. Just like the Upanishads, if you guys have read them, Nachiketa's father, basically, they take the spoiled food that they have, okay? They cook it, stuff that they want to get rid of, okay? And they bring some of the people who take part in that practice, bring it to people who are homeless and stuff like that. Okay, so theoretically it's a good thing, but then you get to see ugly parts of people as well. So I agree with, I don't know who the person in the chat who says there's no right and wrong. Theoretically, yes, but in practice, there is right and wrong, especially when wrong is being done to you. For sure, there is. Yeah.
And we do live in a world of zeros and ones. It's our sympathetic, parasympathetic. It is still a binary system, right and wrong, left and right, light and dark, until such a time our consciousness overcomes that and creates a trinary and a septupulary until once again, we become multidimensional, multifunctional beings who produce light without letting it being harvested.
That is correct. That is correct. Because honestly speaking, all you could do is try your best. Try your best to avoid harming others, right? But you might harm people unwittingly. And then what are you going to do?
Mm-hmm. I guarantee there's been a show, something that's been subbed that put somebody's underwear in a knot. And then, a year later, it's still there. And they're never going to listen to the guns. They heard something that offended them. And now being offended is the difference between is offense and wrong. There's a big difference. When people are offended, they're in the world of charge, polarity, and are there for an argument.
What does that word mean? What does this offense mean? All right. Is it just different in England where you put a C as opposed to, what does offense mean? What does it mean to you? It means that somebody has said something or done something to you that has changed your energy, that has created a negative charge inside of you. Okay? A real negative charge. So you are offended. Okay? How you respond to offense is very important. I could have an argument with you. You could get offended by my opinion and go away and never speak to me again. Probably that's happening right now as I put forward a bunch of opinions. Okay? Who do you think in that scenario is being harmed? Is it the person who's trying to grow, who came on the show to learn something and has gone away? because they're offended and that they will never actually get that kind of resistance again, where people actually put resistance against them so that they have to respond. Every resistance that you encounter is a good thing. You see, bad things and good things. Every resistance that you encounter is a good thing because it's a chance for you to grow. Okay? So when certain people come to your house, try to sell you magazines on Easter Sunday, not that I'm mentioning any names, but everybody in this chat knows who I'm talking about, right? And you're mildly offended and annoyed that your Saturday or Sunday has been interrupted by people who want to push their belief systems on you. Try to engage them in some kind of debate. Ask them whether they think that executing their evangelical duty means inconveniencing other people. Okay? That's a legitimate argument. And I would really like to have a discussion with these kinds of people, but they always generally tend not to want to have that kind of discussion. Correct. That dialogical approach. You must have a dialogue with people. You must ask them these things. And if you take that stance and you ask people, whether it be your spouse or whatever else, or you probably might not want to do this with your spouse. Yeah, because you might get hit over the head with a frying pan if it gets too heated. But try not to get angry and start a dialogue. Okay? Yeah, some people will try to shut you down. They will try, but you must make that effort. Because when you make an effort and somebody shuts you down or shouts you down, which is what we were talking about with regard to this new kind of offense culture that is coming up. We discussed that on a show before, right, Andrew?
Outrage culture.
This outrage culture. If I am giving you a counter argument or another, and I want esoteric people to please be above this concept where you need to shout to get your point across. That is beginning to happen in this community. Okay? Okay? So I may not like, I seem to remember, this is another story. I'm vegan, but I like my Birkenstocks. I love them. They're leather. They're awesome, and I'm never going to stop wearing them. But I had a discussion with a vegan who said to me, you're wearing leather. You're just as bad as the meat eaters, carnivores. And I'm like, what? I like my Birkenstocks. I'm going to keep wearing them. And the reason why you have this offense against people using the skin of animals is because probably you've never been cold before, right? But if an animal is dead, it is not an offense to wear that animal's skin. Okay? It is not an offense to wear that animal's skin. Andrew, do you have leather belts?
Yes.
Do you feel badly about it?
No. Not at all.
You see, if I was a vegan zealot, that's what Santos said, I would probably say something along the lines of, you should be ashamed of yourself. A spiritual person like you, how could you possibly do that? And then Andrew would probably give me the middle finger, right?
You're number one.
Right. Right.
One related teaching that comes from many Native American cultures, and it's about the story of the antelope. Now, this is when the first sets of ice mountains were coming in this mythology. And the antelope came out of the mountain down to man and saying, the ice mountains are coming. I now offer you my body. You must take my flesh, kill me, eat me, so you may survive. And man said, no, we cannot do this. We cannot do this. And the antelope said, it is my service. You must kill me and take my flesh to keep you warm, to survive the next generations. It is my journey and service to you. And man learned to eat flesh and survive the ice mountains through the service of these animals, which created all these anthropological clans that honored the antelope. Now, the same thing can apply in modern technology. Now, is in mass farming and cows and leather different than this story? Yes, it is. But now we're talking about death versus life. And let me tell you something, David, you're a knowledgeable vegan. You have muscle mass on you. I have met many vegans that are one step away from death's door. And I've had to say, if you don't eat a sandwich, you're going to die, asshole. But they became so zealotous that they couldn't. And then they ended up in the hospital. Then they ended up on a food drip and all this other stuff. And they actually had to learn how to eat food again. That's because the zealotry took over.
You know, Andrew's seen this in me. You've seen me argue with myself several times, right?
Yes, in the third person.
Yes. So Andrew has seen me arguing with myself quite a bit. Yeah, in the third person, that's correct. And let me give you some advice. It probably is not advised that you get into it that because you'll be arguing with yourself quite a bit. But if you cannot argue with yourself on your own belief system, then you're a zealot.
Exactly. You're a zealot. Hey, David, it's top of the hour. Let us take a break now. And when we come back, we can take some callers. Okay. Robert, why don't you take us to our break? And when we come back, we will extend this conversation and go to some powerful new levels.
Okay, see everyone in about 10 minutes.
All right. I'm not sure what's going on. Our video isn't playing.
Andrew, if you can hear me, the something's going on with the playback on my computer. So we're having a technical gremlin moment.
All right. We'll be back in 5 minutes, everyone, as we figured the gremlin and skewered in the brain. Welcome back, everyone. As our technical gremlins will be degremlinated in just a moment, as Robert figures out how to degremlinate the background there. Welcome back, David. How's it going?
Hi, how is it going, Andrew? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you wonderful today. So we have had some unique conversation, and I want to touch on something. And this is another aspect of, let's just say, the esoteric community and people who pretend. And I want to bring this term up, pontificating philosophers. They want to hear their own words. And oftentimes in shows, I end up doing interviews. Well, all these people want to do is hear themselves be heard. And if you're a pontificating philosopher, you are no longer being an esoteric practitioner.
That is correct. When people go off into the realms of go off into the realms of finding obscure teachings to bring forward, when people are just having a discussion, and they're everywhere. They're at parties, they're at retreats. You know, every retreat has one.
Yes. Every retreat has a pontificating philosopher.
Every retreat, every group that you go to where esoteric people come converge, you're going to find one person who can't just chill out and enjoy the energy of the retreat. No, they're going to be that person that's just going to keep talking and talking and talking about esoterics and leading you as like you are too intense. Chill. Okay? Every retreat has one. Let me tell you about my experience, because I've been on a couple of retreats in my life, and I used to actually go to retreats for yoga practitioners. There are certain kinds of people that will probably show up in retreats, and these are the people that you are going to have to face. There's the pontificating philosopher. Okay? That person is the person who will hijack the whole retreat. They will hijack, they're not the ones giving the retreat. They will hijack the whole retreat and start speaking and not stop. And people are just like, please stop speaking. That's the first person that you're going to find there. There will be the person who is so esoteric, they don't know what to do with themselves. In the last retreat that I went to, we were asked to do an exercise. The exercise is from Zen Buddhism. Okay? Usually a fairly... So the retreat host made the error, a very huge error, of asking a particular young lady, show us your true self. She started howling like a wolf, really, really loudly. She was sitting next to me, my poor ears. And it went on for about 3 minutes. And I'm like, I'm trying to do this exercise here. But she shut down everyone in the retreat. Now, she had the option. She had the option to be a little bit more mindful that there were other people, but the host made the mistake. So I don't know what I feel about that, but she was howling really loudly. And is that attention seeking? What is that? Was it the host's fault? I can't hear you, Andrew.
Isn't the nature of howling to get attention?
No, but seriously, she was howling very loudly. Yeah, howling.
Yeah, the nature of a howl is to gather attention. So yes, it was 100% give me attention now.
You know, I stopped going to retreats for about 10 years. And it's not because I ran into these people. I've started recently seeing the different esoteric groups that are out there. But what I have seen a lot of is that there's been a fundamental shift in a number of things in the community. I think things have just shifted in the last 10 to 20 years. Because before, a retreat used to be a community of people who are coming together to get to, and they had the energy to be with each other in a space that was safe, right? In a space that was safe. I grew up in a place where there were no fees in the center that I grew up in, okay? There were no fees. You want to know why there were no fees? Because everybody looked at that center as their home and they treated it as such. So I grew up having to clean and fix that center where we meditated. Okay? And if the center needed anything, people didn't have to have a meeting to ask people for money as to when we can get this stuff. People just went out and did it. So there's been a fundamental shift where everything has become a little bit either commercialized, and they tend to miss the energy. And then you have the pontificating philosophers, you have the attention seekers, and you have the negatives that come to these retreats. Because at the retreat that I went to, there was a lady who was a sex therapist. I kid you not, she hates men. So this is exactly what happened. She had a bad experience. She tried to understand the bad experience by becoming a relationship coach and a sex therapist. But I could see through what it is that she was doing, because it shows up on your face. The stuff inside you, quad intra, extra. What's in is out. It shows up on your face when you hate men, the way you react to them. Until at the end of the retreat, towards the end, she had to admit, I don't like men very much. Okay, you don't like men very much, but it shows up because you have this sort of edge on you and you making people feel uncomfortable. So I know that she became
you're going to be a shitty sex therapist.
No, she became a sex therapist to harm men through the function subliminally through their relationships. Mm-hmm. So couples come to her for sex therapy, and guess who she's going to say is right in the equation?
Woman. That's why I said she's a shitty sex therapist.
Yeah, she is. But
unfortunately, in my private sessions, I get that a lot, especially people who are counselors and psychotherapists, and they end up projecting their own issues on clients who never started with that issue.
You do know that at least 80 to 90% of the people who became psychotherapists and counselors is because they're trying to fix something in themselves. They just don't trust anybody else to do it right.
That's right.
Okay, that is a statement of truth, right? I do know that when I was learning counseling, okay, it wasn't 80 to 90%, it was the whole class. The whole class were there because they were trying to fix something inside themselves. Mm-hmm. Okay, this was a class of 30-something people. Every one of them came because they had something to fix, mm-hmm. and they wanted to learn it. Okay, and that's fine. Yeah, so you get these people, and we're all here to learn and so on, right? But if you're going to learn, don't become an inconvenience to other people, please. Okay.
Well, David, how about we take some calls? Robert, sure. Is your gremlinated computer able to do some calls?
I believe so. Let's check it out with Marcelo Prado.
Marcelo, are you there?
Hi.
Hi, where are you calling from today?
I'm from Chile.
Chile, welcome to the show. Okay, what did you want to talk about today?
Well, lately I've been working on my healing, my wounds and meeting unmet needs of belonging and getting support and security in life. And at the same time, sorry.
Okay.
I was looking for that, and I got many synchronicities and intuitive guidance towards alien races and Lemuria and things like that. And they really gave me that sense of security and belonging, things I never find in my family. But so, I don't know, I feel like I found my chance to confirm all the things that I've been getting. If I have any extraterrestrial origins, relations to any of those topics, because it gave me like a sense of not being really abandoned and getting some support from beings in the universe. So yeah, that's it.
So when we find support from our unseen world, there are times it's our internal world that may seem external. Sometimes it is external. The internal world of confirmation means that there's something going inside you that has a journey to confirmation, affirmation. And that journey to confirmation, affirmation is the security, that sense of security you're feeling. There are things you cannot learn from your parents simply because they don't have the skills, the techniques, the knowledge, or the interest to pass on. And when something that's unconfirmable in physical reality comes to a confirmation within us, that is a mystical moment. And what I can say for you is right now, no matter what's going on externally or internally, it's about the mystical moment itself. It isn't even about what is out there. It is about what's inside you as a signature frequency match for confirmation, affirmation, and completion. And I want to bring Dave in here on this journey of confirmation, affirmation, completion. No matter what the subject matter is on their journey to healing, they all share those mechanics.
Mm-hmm. So now, we're talking to Paula?
Yes.
Marcella? No.
Marcella.
Marcella. Marcella, may I ask what your experience was, if you want to share it?
Yeah, I started to see many synchronicities with things like lions and the beings from Lyra, the Lyra race, alien races, and also things from Lemuria, like seeing things from there and feeling that sensation of security and being free, but like secure to be free, and like home, a sensation of home that I never felt before. So since then, I felt like this kind of need to confirm if all these feelings that I was getting were kind of like why.
Question, Marcella, what changes have you made in your life?
Changes.
Mm-hmm.
Lately I've been working a lot of in my root chakra to really like kind of like feel grounded.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started to kind of like be grounded on, I started to get like so much fear of being on earth. So these kind of synchronicities that were happening at the same time were kind of like supporting that kind of fear, like don't be so scared because you are in home or things like that.
Okay. What changes have you made in your life?
Well, I've been meditating and being in guided meditations.
Okay. How have you been meditating?
Because I used to do more shadow work than guided meditations, but now I can like kind of visualizations for getting grounded. I also stopped eating meat and things that my body started like kind of like rejecting it once I started to connect more with my body. I think that any other change.
How do you feel now?
At this moment?
Yes, generally. Just generally.
I'd say I'm kind of like in this limbo, kind of like releasing stuff from the past, but at the same time about to step into new frequencies that might heal me from all those wounds.
Okay. Question. Were you less grounded because you were trying to get away from the old wounds?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, because I didn't have like a resolution from that. I didn't feel like I had that.
And so you chose to float instead?
Yeah, I was always like in my mind space and never really in my body. And now I'm trying to practice that. And at the same time, all this stuff start to happen. So.
Okay. Here are a few. Would you like a few tips, sir?
Tips?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. If it's something that I need.
No, I'm just giving you just general advice. If you are used to floating, being in your body is going to be a bit of a task, okay? Now you say you're practicing grounding. What kind of grounding are you practicing right now?
I do a simple meditation about like visualizing my root chakra, connecting to the ground, being outside more time, being in touch with nature and things like that.
Okay. Do you get out much?
Not really.
Do you talk to people?
Not much physically. Like not in my surroundings. I feel like very scared to do that.
Why is that?
Because I have like all these social wounds from my childhood that makes it really hard for me to like be authentic, and I think that I'm always scared of being authentic because I'm scared of being attacked and persecuted. And what you were talking earlier about that thing that having like being authentic and having that courage really resonated with me in this moment, because it's something that that's why I need this kind of sense of security, that there's something that is something with me that is going to prevent that kind of persecution towards me.
Marcella,
Yes.
in this life, there will always be people. If you are particularly a meditator, if you are throwing off that kind of energy, there are always going to be people that will persecute you. That is a statement of fact. I want you to hear this, and I want you to hear me very well. Now, you're trying to ground yourself. The number of times you've said "I think" in this particular response that you've given me has been about 3 or 4 times. Okay? You're still drawing that energy upward, and you're still trying to float. You're not going to be very good at it. You might have to drop yourself into the deep end of the pool, meaning the following. You're going to do some homework for me, Marcella, please. I want you to try. Go out. Speak to people. I know you're not going to be in your authentic self, but you have to try, because going out into nature is grounding in and of itself. Okay? I know part of what you're going through. Okay? I have a floating issue as well. I used to, actually. Now I'm actually, so I know what you're going through. If it is that you try to practice this solo, you're not going to be fully grounded. Are you listening to me? Just listen. Yeah. You're not going to be fully grounded. You need to interact with people, and you need to be in the moment, present with people, because you are still here to learn lessons. Do you understand that? The lessons that you are learning inside your head when you float, they are one-sided lessons. You need the resistance. You need the resistance. And I'll tell you why you need the resistance, because the resistance makes you grow a lot faster than when you don't have it. And I'm going to tell you the truth right now, because I like to tell people things not from some philosophical perspective or from a book. I like to tell you people things from stuff that I know on my own skin. Okay? I stepped into this path. Learning a system that does not encourage groundedness at all in any way, shape, or form. Okay? I had to relearn to ground myself. I tried doing it solo, but I realized that as soon as people came too close to me, and, well, part of that system that didn't encourage groundedness also discouraged me from allowing people to touch me as well, right? As soon as people came too close to me, my mind would just start to float away. So believe me, I understand what you're speaking about. Okay? My suggestion to you is that you get the resistance from other people and learn. And you don't have to go full-fledged into this, but you need resistance from other people. You need to talk to people. You will grow. You will grow. The grounded practice that you're doing, the root chakra practice, is still within yourself in a solitary concept. But you're existing in a world with many people around you. So you need to get out and you need to talk to them. And the reason why I went down this road with you is because when you started to speak, I immediately understood where you were coming from. So let's take it from me. Don't take my word for it, right? I'm gonna ask you to speak to one person, two people, expose yourself to two people, have discussions, stay in the moment with these people, okay? Because if you stay in your head, you're not fully engaging with life. You do realize this, right, Marcella? And you probably don't want to, but you have to. You have
Yeah.
to. You're not here. You're not here to float in the nether realms all the time.
Yeah, that's what I felt.
Right? You may need to actually go out and be very, very grounded. Step outside, speak to people, and tell them who you are. Let them tell you who they are. They probably will not approve of you. Whether they approve of you or whether they don't approve of you, as our thing said earlier on when I read it to you. It doesn't matter whether they detest you, they learn, or they go away, right? You are independent of that. You already know that because you've been floating for so many years, okay? You are independent of what's happening on the ground, okay? But don't let yourself chase yourself into the nether realms of your head. Come down to earth and be with the rest of us. You're talking to me and you're fine, aren't you? Are you fine?
Sorry?
You're talking to me and you're fine, aren't you? You haven't floated away anywhere, have you?
I'm not sure. I'm trying really hard to stay here because any kind of like social interaction makes me go floating because I don't feel secure.
Okay.
When you were younger, did you have nightmares?
Not many. I had, but like I can count them with my one hand.
And you said before that you said before that you were persecuted. Is that a religious persecution?
No, actually, I felt persecuted by my classmates when I was like 5 years old because I was bullied.
And how old are you now?
I'm 21.
So 16 years later, are you ready to heal from that?
I'm trying real hard because
that's what the external sources are trying to help you understand, that they're bringing a frequency to keep you grounded and not up air all the time. Because they want you here and you want yourself here. That's why you were born here. The challenge here is, can you be in your body, even in a conversation?
Yeah, it's very hard for me.
Only in the beginning, because you've lost some of the social skills. Okay. All too often on the show, we talk about hermits that lose the social skills. And they take their challenges to get back, because once you've gone months really without talking with people, it's very hard to not interrupt people or to just go into the silent mode and just let them talk. That's why pontificating philosophers can hijack conversations, because they put out all this light and all of a sudden us hermits out there just go float off and suntan off the light.
Right.
Andrew, really? Okay, correct. Marcella, you are not, you are stronger than this thing that is creating this internal involuted perspective. I understand the vortex that you live in. Anything that happens out here, your mind floats away, and you've probably gotten very good at it. Am I correct from what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it's this kind of a skill to dissociate myself from the physical.
Do you get shutdowns? Do you get pulled in?
What do you mean by that? Pulled in?
The shutdowns and the floating, is it always 100% voluntary?
Not really.
You get pulled in, basically.
Yeah, it's kind of like getting trapped in the mind space.
Okay. That might be a little bit of a problem.
Mhm.
Actually, that's a very big problem. And as I said, I already know what you're going through. You're going to have to make the biggest effort at this particular point in time to stay present in your body and come back out. Because otherwise, that floating, there's a byproduct to this floating. It will give your body rest. It will, but there's a real inherent danger that if you keep dissociating from the body, then things tend to go wrong inside your body real quick. Okay? Do you understand that? Do you
Yeah, I
understand
understand.
why? Consciousness is supposed to be living inside your body at least 8 hours a day. If you keep floating away, then your cells tend to do whatever they want, along with other dangers, which I necessarily won't get into, right? Because I'm dealing with you. But you need to take control of your body, and you need to also take control over your power as an individual person. Speaking to other individual beings, you are meant to talk to people. I'm speaking to you right now. I'm telling you I've had the same experience that you have had. And I'm telling you that maybe it might be a good idea to come back to the rest of us, because we're all here. And some of us are really shitty people, and some of us are really good people, and some of us would like to talk to you every day, because I'm sure you have something to say to us. Because somebody who floats as much as you do has probably seen a lot of things. Yeah? And people might actually learn from your experience. They might actually learn from your experience. So
yeah, it's
you have a
something that
lot to
I really
say.
want to do.
You have a lot to say. So say that thing. Come down to us. Not everybody that you meet is going to reject you and try to spurn you or persecute you. There are going to be people who are really interested in what you have to say. I'm interested in what you have to say, because the more people that I speak to like you, I get to understand that there's a bigger world out there. Okay? People who have had similar experiences to me. So my suggestion to you is that you find people that you can actually speak to. And even if there are people that you can't speak to, you still learn from them by interaction. You're missing out. You're missing out. I'm telling you, you're missing out. Take my word for it. Okay? My only other suggestion would be, if you are practicing grounding techniques, it probably isn't a good idea to stop eating meat. I'm telling you this right now. It's too late for me, okay? But it's probably not a good idea to stop eating meat if you're practicing grounding techniques. Go out, have a life. Look, I guarantee you, some people are going to find you fascinating. Other people are going to find you weird, and it really doesn't matter, because if they find you weird, you could just float off again. Clearly, you can. So, can you just please make an effort? Can you promise me to make an effort, please?
Yeah, I'll do. I'll definitely do. I mean,
Okay, just try it for a week and see what happens. How's that? Let's make a deal.
all right, like going every day outside and meet people.
Just going every day outside and walking around, and then you can bounce us back at info@univitehealthsystems.com and let me know how it went. I will answer you. Okay? Let me know how it goes.
All
Okay?
right.
Because it's not all horrible. It really isn't.
Mhm.
Can we make that deal?
Yeah, sure.
See? You're interacting. Is that weird for you?
What? Sorry, I didn't.
You're interacting with me. Do you realize that? You're talking to me.
Yeah,
It's not that bad, is it?
yeah, it's not that bad.
Wasn't that hard?
Cool.
It was really hard, but
Not as hard as talking to a Christian on the corner of the street who will judge you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're gonna make that deal. You go out, you message me, and yeah, I will answer you. I will answer you. See, we have dialogue now.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't float off. I think you're still here. That's good.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Okay, cool.
All right, Marcella, thanks a lot for calling in. David, let's move on to our next caller. Robert, let's spin up that wheel of callers and see who comes.
Okay, Yvonne, you're our next caller. You're unmuted with Andrew.
Yvonne, are you there? Yvonne, going once, going twice, going 3 times. We do not hear Yvonne. Let's move on to Santo.
Hmm.
Hello.
Santo, are you there?
Hello.
Hey, you're calling from Queensland, Australia again?
Yep, up in the hills of Springbrook in Queensland, Australia.
Wonderful. You've been a caller in the show many, many times. What do you think of the new show and format?
I love it. I think.
What did you want to talk about today?
I couldn't help but notice as David, as you're talking, you wave your hands about. And I've had this amateur interest in palmistry all my life. And I've always wondered what the relationship is between the imprint and the way the traditional palmistry associates it with various planets and meanings. And given that we're talking about the esoteric today, I'm wondering whether that imprint actually has significance, because I couldn't help but look at David's palms and their beautiful, clear, very deep lines that kind of reflected, to me at least, who he is. And, you know, the various shapes of fingers and shapes of hands say something. And I was just curious as to your perspective.
Andrew, he's talking about chiromancy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
what did you say? What was that word?
Chiromancy.
What's that mean?
It's what you are referring to in the what you're referring to right now. So have you read a lot about palmistry?
I've only read the technical matter, so when it comes to the esoteric, that's why I'm asking, because it just seems aligned to a kind of you know, a little bit like astrology. These sort of definitions of planets and versions of reality that just don't resonate with me. But I can kind of see, like, for example, the Simeon line, when the head and heart lined, there is a medical kind of understanding of that link to autism. And there are various other patterns that do correlate to various traits. I'm trying to separate the real nature of the imprint, whether it has significance or whether it's been hijacked for esoteric purposes.
That's a very interesting question. It's a detailed question. So all of knowledge is fairly linked with each other, okay? The writing on your hands, so to speak, the writing on your hands is developed by how you develop as an individual. So the palmistry which you're talking about, is linked to reflex points, and it determines. So when you're dealing with this stuff, you have to make a distinction between what you came in with and what you are creating. Let's start with that. Can we start with that?
Good. Yes, good.
Good. What you came in with and what you are creating. Okay. So in some forms of chiromancy, the left hand is what you came in with. The right hand is the creative part. Okay. To say that it's it's linked with planetary associations. That seems a bit of a, how should I say, it's a stretch. So to answer your first question, I'll go in reverse order. Has it been hijacked by esoteric practice? I would probably say yes, because there is a science to it, right? Not all, not everything is just, not everything is just a matter of belief system, okay? So if you follow the reflex points, reflexology, chiromancy, palmistry, they all came under one general heading before they became separate sciences. Okay, I think some of you guys in the chat would probably know this because we have a very educated audience, right? So when you are reading what you came in with, you're saying this is sort of like a blank slate, and the other one is, the other palm is what you're creating as you go along. But is that based on reflex points? Is it based on the reaction of your system, the output on the reading? Because your body and your mind and your soul puts out a reading of a report of everything you did every day.
Mm-hmm.
This is the basis of iridology. Okay? You know what iridology is?
Yes, yes. Yes, I do.
It puts out a reading of what you did every day, of what's happening, what organs got affected and what organs did not. From the organs, you could make arbitrary association of what's going on with that person. But over a long period of time of utilizing that organ, it's going to show up everywhere. You are literally a big piece of paper, right? Writing out who you are and what you are to the world, okay? For someone who is a palm reader, your palm is just another piece of paper to them, okay? The associations that you're talking about in terms of the movement of planets or whatever else, I mean, it's a bit of a stretch and it's arbitrary. And I cannot in good conscience tell you, oh, okay, there's a solid connection between the two. I think the sciences, there probably is, but I don't know it. And I generally tend to deal with the knowledge that I already know. And I can tell you that your palms put out a reading of who you are. So, for instance, right, depending on what is going on with your body, it's going to start showing up and it's going to make a definitive impression in your eyes. Sclera analysis, for those of you who know what the sclera analysis is, in your irises. It's going to make an impression in your feet. An iridologist knows an angry person when they see them, okay? Because an angry person taxes the liver. The liver then taxes your skin, and underneath your feet become cracked as a result of it in certain places. Reflexologist knows that you're an angry person. You understand the association. It's a direct scientific association, okay? Because what happens is the anger robs you of the use of vitamin A. Understood? I'm sorry, we're getting about a bit off topic, but I'm showing you direct associations as opposed to arbitrary associations. If you are angry a lot of the time, then your use of vitamin A is going to be impeded. Okay? And your skin will suffer as a result. Okay? If you are heartbroken a lot of the time, then you're going to be putting a drain on your endocrine system. Okay? If you're frightened a lot of the time, then you're going to be utilizing your adrenals too much, and your body will report it, and it will show up everywhere. Everywhere. So a chiromancy looks at your palms, and he's not only doing, if he's a good chiromancer, he's not only doing the reading of your palms, he's doing a reading of your entire system. And your system is a broadcaster, which is something that people don't understand. Everyone is a broadcaster. You're literally writing your path in this world. Do you know of something called the tarot? You remember the tarot?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Okay. It doesn't matter whether you're using Rider-Waite's deck or whether you're using Crowley's deck or whatever deck you're using. The story of the tarot is always the same. The fool comes into the world blank. The fool is not somebody who's stupid. The fool is somebody who is not learned. Understood? He's somebody who's not learned. And he goes through the world. The Fool card in the tarot deck, he goes through the world and he creates his own story. All of this is creating our own story. Okay? So you asked me that question for a reason. Tell me, what was the reason?
There was no particular reason. It just stood out to me that your hands come across the camera quite a bit, and they're just so clean, and the bass lines are very strong and deep, which kind of correlated to me. That's what I kind of look for. Someone else, that does iridology, look at their eyes or whatever. And it was just a cross correlation of what I thought. But I agree with you. I tend to think it's the esoteric association with those planetary aspects is sometimes a long bow that is not really part of the simple nature of it just being a tool that one person may use and someone else may use something else. Like when you mentioned the liver, I immediately thought, because I studied traditional Chinese medicine, that the liver is, yes, it is associated with the emotion anger in traditional Chinese medicine. And so you can see the correlation between the various modalities when it comes to the association of various external attributes, whether it's in the eyes, the hands, the meridians. And I was just trying to confirm that. You did. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I will add something to that. If I really think about it and process esoteric science really well.
Sorry, that's a kookaburra.
That's okay. That's okay. So if I process esoteric science very well, and I try to make that correlation with regard to the movement of planets and so on, from the palm to the movements of planets and the correlation, I would have to go to a particular religion, an earth religion. Let's try Wicca, shall we? Let's try that. Let's try that. Because their divination practices are a little bit different in that they believe what is happening is also affecting. It's back to the same thing I said earlier, quad intra extra, what's in is out. You think you're not affecting your environment, but you are. And your environment in turn is affecting you. We are living in a sort of reactive universe, okay? Everything reacts to everything else, theoretically. And you, as an individual sovereign being, what you need to be able to do is control the reactions. And that's where the real magic of Wicca lies. So I'll explain. This is a deep, you've touched on a very deep science. I don't usually get technical questions. So I'm going to put it this way. The whole concept of your hexagram is basically you throw something up into the air and your thoughts become ethereal. But when it comes back down, it becomes manifest. Okay, this is the concept. Okay, the thought thrown up into the air, the triangle that goes up, comes back down as a manifest creation in the circle, which is your universe. Okay, this is the concept. People don't understand the symbology really well. So with regard, if I wanted to make an esoteric stretch to put this out there, I suppose I could theoretically say that I'm living in a reactive universe. Everything that I come into contact with, I've come into contact with because I pull it into my reality by my association. But when you're talking about planets and the movement of planets, you're not talking about one person in reaction with the universe. You're talking about several people, millions of people, billions of people in reaction with the universe, right? So each one of their palms can be affected, or probably it can, because we're dealing with a supercomputer here. Okay? That's 1,000 different calculations for every millimeter and how deep your line goes. Okay? So the universe can't be necessarily reacting to, or probably it can. I don't really know. I would have to defer to Andrew here. Can the universe react to everybody and everybody react to the universe at the same time? Yes, it probably is. That's probably the truth. However, to extrapolate the palm of one individual with regard to the entire universe is something that is a bit of a stretch, and it would be beyond the capability of a normal average mind to get that done. So I'm going to have to defer with no. And you probably shouldn't try either.
There comes a moment where flesh is DNA, and there can be much more encoded to the DNA, and you're not reading flesh anymore. Mm-hmm. So in the palms might be the cipher to the greater code. Would probably be a better way to put it, because inside the DNA is memories, all sorts of things that determine who, what, when, where, why, past, present, future, simultaneous existence, all of that is as the greater journey of who, what, when, and where we want to be as a conscious being of choice in the universe. Now, there are times that no matter what system you're using, from tarot to palm reading to Akashic record readings, you're dead on. But there's also the limitation of what the person can perceive, the reader and the person being read. And all too often, when you're reading a person's palm, it's what's right in front of their face is what they're getting usually. Things they need to know that they may trip over in life frequently. Now, some of the things that David was saying about the journey to understanding, well, that also is more of an experienced person who is choosing to use many modalities in pattern recognition. Because without pattern recognition, there is no special esoteric science that tells you this, 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 this. It's all still pattern recognition. Pattern recognition on different scales. Now, can one little bump in one little part of the hand tell you if you're going to have kids? That could be subjective to one reader and totally not to another. Well, there are other people who have intuition that is greater than what's written on the flesh.
And Santo, I'm actually putting that word in there, chiromancy.
Thank you.
It's right there.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Just on an extension of this theme. If we look at it beyond the planets and we just go simpler to the element, earth, air, wind, the water, fire. In Australia at the moment, we are definitely under some very unusual, bizarre extremes in relation to water and fire. We have extreme drought, like just yesterday, 20 houses were burnt, not that far from here, in a sudden fire. And just last week, another 10 houses up the road were burnt, and we're in rainforest. So it's very unusual. So trying to understand the element of water, is there something that we're missing? Because you talk about pattern recognition, you see the pattern of whether some people form chemtrails or geoengineering, these various forces against the elements that affect us all. And water and fire relative to what's happening as individuals, because we're really made up of water to a great extent. How do we deal with that external force that really does affect our lives on a day-to-day basis in terms of lack of water, if it's drought or extreme heat? Is this something we're meant to just adapt to? Or is this something that at an elemental level we can work on as individuals to better understand that there is a natural change or an imposed change that we can protect ourselves from? Where does this extremity, because just yesterday, there's extreme zealotry behavior with what they call extinction rebellion events, where young people are just literally throwing themselves in front of traffic and demanding that governments do something about this, but it sounds like at an esoteric level, we're missing something very important that's going on here.
Well, I would like to take a stab at this.
Yeah. Go ahead. Stab away.
So I'd like to take a stab at this. Wow, technical question again. Excellent, Santa. Okay. So I assume that you've done a lot of research into the esoteric. Do you know what water represents in esoteric theosophy?
What does it represent? No, I couldn't say off the top of my head. I understand the properties as in, you know, the crystalline nature, the programmable nature, the fact that we are made of water, therefore programmable, but not sure what you were asking.
All the elements represented part of the human construct, okay? Depending on which so in the West is different from the East. The East usually thought of water as flowing, and they saw it and they mapped it onto the concept of emotions. In the West, it's mapped onto the concept of thoughts. Fire is the emotions because it tends to rage out of control whether you're in love or not in love. It's different from the East to the West, and the body is obviously the earth, okay? But let's deal with what you were talking about, which is the scientific aspect. Water is programmable. Yes, you can suspend a musical note on water. You can. It is. And Dr. Emoto's studies has taught us that water can be influenced. Okay? Water can be influenced by human interaction. For those of you who don't know who Dr. Emoto is, Jenny, you want to just do a Google search and put him up there for everyone? E-M-O-T-O, Dr. Emoto. Well, basically, for those of you who are not familiar with his work, what he did was he did a bit of an experiment where he took water and left it around people who were in a negative state, had negative charge. And he took some water and put it around people who had a very positive charge. They were loving, happy, whatever else. He then took the 2 samples of water and froze it, right? At a temperature, I think it was 20 below, and then magnified the result. So the people who had the negative charge, the crystalline structure of the water was, how should I put this? It was aberrant and broken. And people who had the positive charge, the water that was around them was really well-formed crystals, happy under a microscope. Correct, thank you. Thank you, the person I'm not supposed to be outing. Right, so people who are under this negative charge, the microscopic crystalline structure of the water was broken. It was aberrant. Okay, here's the thing that you need to learn from this concept, and you guys could go research that. It's Dr. Emoto. I believe Jenny has put the name in the chat. 70 to 80% of your body is water. You want to know why that's significant? Because the charge that you hold is affecting the water in your system. Okay? This is something that you should know, and your blood being part of that water construct. Getting back to what you were saying, I just wanted to clear up the science part of it. Getting back to what you were saying, Santo. What is happening in Australia and what is happening in the world is that the majority, this negative charge is going to be a problem in the future for everyone. You understand that, right? Because it's no longer a debate. Negativity will turn water the wrong way. Okay? It's no longer a debate. That question has already been answered by science. Water is programmable. So when you see things like drought and so on, you are talking about an absence of water. And the reason why I made the connection earlier on to esoteric philosophy is because there's an absence of thinking and thoughts and good thoughts. and positivity. And what is going on in Australia is that there's going to be 9 times out of 10 when you see these phenomena happening, it's usually not a good result. You understand that, right?
Yeah, it's trying not to go too deep into woo-woo, but also acknowledging that there are very real agendas behind these current scenarios, and it's not as simple as being a climate change activist or denier. This is one of the big problems. And interestingly, everyone has different perspectives. One of my neighbours, for example, was just telling me the other day that when they were a child 40 plus years ago, their father, who was a senior in the Masons, had said that there will be desertification. So they were getting caught up in the story, but there's an element of truth in that. They were telling them when they were a little child that there will be desertification and people should move to the coast. And there's a fear element in a lot of these stories, and you want to get rid of the fear and have a clean, pure understanding that doesn't mince words, but actually cuts and says there is a real agenda here and there is something going on, not to be fearful, but not to be woo-woo. It is real, and it's very difficult to have that conversation today.
Actually, it's not that difficult to have the conversation. I didn't want to necessarily get into the woo-woo stuff. The reason why I mentioned the thoughts, and I'll tell you why that is, because it's a known scientific fact. Let's just deal with science. Forget about belief systems. Let's just deal with what is scientific. It's a known scientific fact. It's a clinical fact that a 10% drop in your water intake will take out 40% of your processing ability. We know this, okay? So if you don't drink water, you can't think. You just can't. You can't think effectively, okay, when you are dehydrated. That is a statement.
But do you think this is a natural cycle or an agenda-driven man-made cycle for a particular outcome?
Okay, let me put it to you this way. The head of a very powerful water company said in an interview, and those of you who follow the news will remember this, water is not a natural right of people. I believe he was getting resistance because the people around that area said that water is a human right. And he said that water is not something that you are entitled to or have a right to. And he got a lot of bad press off of it. You remember that? Does anybody remember this?
Absolutely.
Yes. So there was another individual who was CEO. These are 2 CEOs who said he didn't make medicines for Indians and people who couldn't afford to pay for it. So to answer your question, that is not a matter of conspiracy. This is a matter of fact. You have people that are trying to corner the market on something that everybody really actually needs to survive. Okay? And that is water. Okay? And I mean survive, and there's no positivity without water. Trust me. If you live in a drought area, you will become very, very aggressive and very, very angry really quick if there's no water. People think it's food, but it's the water that is going to make you angry and want to fight and want to do stuff. If I restrict your water, I own you. I literally own you. Okay, and the head of that particular company, which I try not to mention names because we've had a few disgusting CEOs who have outed themselves by actually making statements in international news media, which they know cannot be right. You are literally planning to monopolize water in a particular area. What could be more disgusting than that? Once you monopolize the water, you control the people. You control all of them. Okay?
Yes.
They will do whatever you want.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
We see this unfolding, and I understand, and I hear, and I appreciate your response. For your time.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Santa. That was a very interesting discussion we just had.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrew.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Robert, I think Andrew's muted. Please spin the wheel of callers if you can. Andrew, you're muted.
All right, so
Andrew,
what is
we
going
cannot
on
hear
here?
you. There we go.
Okay, that was my internet connection. All right. So thank you so much, everyone. This has been an outstanding show. We'll be come back this Thursday at 11 o'clock Pacific for another amazing show. Thanks a lot, everyone. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And share this video to everyone that you know that needs to have some esoteric wisdom instilled into them, who are so that we can stop pontificating philosophy. My new meme.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.